All right. One, two, one, two. All right. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Audio Audacity Program podcast, whatever you want to call it. Today's episode is episode 14. It's about mental health help. Mental health help. Pardon me for this faux pas, but today's podcast is brought to you by Gia Turner Realtor. Now is the time to buy because interest rates are low, historically low. Gia has a team with a credit manager to help you clean your credit legally and a finance manager to help you get the new home based on your credit. So now is the time to let them help you get the dream home of your dreams right now. It's a seller's market, so now is the time to sell your property and get top dollar for your home or the land to bring in a nice profit. Now, the best way to reach Gia Turner is 314-323-1589 or homesbygiaturner.com. And on to the show. So, let's see here. So, today's episode is Mental Health Help. And our guest today is Ashley Reese. Hello, Ashley. How are you?
I'm good.
All right. Welcome again. And
Thank you.
let me give everyone a little rundown on who Ashley is. She's a licensed professional counselor. She's a graduate of Lindenwood University in 2011. She holds a master's degree in professional counseling within the state of Missouri. Also earned a bachelor's degree from Southeast Missouri State, SEMO,
Hey.
in child development with a minor in psychology. She's a clinical therapist for the past 8 years. She has experience in a wide variety of treatment settings, which include private practice, St. Louis City and St. Louis County Public Schools, federally qualified healthcare centers, community-based services. The main thing that she utilizes her skills in is cognitive behavioral therapy, person-centered therapy, motivational interviewing, play therapy, supportive therapy, psychoeducation, and solution-focused therapy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
Yeah.
So, with her being who she is, she has her own practices called Haven of Support Counseling. And if you're in the St. Louis region, the way that you can reach her right now would be 314-325-1995. The number again is 314-325-1995. Or you can go to havenofsupportcounseling.com. So please, unfortunately, in the black community, it's looked upon to be like whack or lame to seek help. But with everything that we go through in being African American, black, minorities, we go through a lot just waking up every day. And so it's very important that you seek help because you never know where you may end up. You know, unfortunately, in the past, within the past month or so, there has been that was the suicide of Regina King's son, and the actor Michael Madsen's son committed suicide, and that's just two. Not to mention whatever or whomever you know locally. You know, so let's start off with some questions for Ashley. All right. So the first question is, what is mental health and what does it affect with your mental health? I'm sorry. What is mental health and what does it affect with your physical health? I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to thank you guys for having me
You're welcome,
on.
dear.
And so, mental health, when we hear that word, there's a lot of stigma associated with it.
Right.
We think of mental as
Crazy.
crazy, yeah, or something's wrong with you. But mental health is just basically your overall well-being, your mental well-being, and that includes your emotional, psychological, your feelings, basically. And so, mental health is something that we all have. We all experience life and feelings and events, and that impacts us.
Right.
And so, your mental health is intertwined with your physical health. And so, just as let's say if you are diagnosed with cancer, that would most of the time impact your mental health. That could lead to feelings of anxiety or depression. It doesn't have to, but it can. And just as if you are dealing with a mental health condition, that can impact your physical health. So if you are suffering from depression, that could lead to high blood pressure, that could lead to having a stroke, and a lot of other physical health issues. And so they are all intertwined together. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Also, what are some of the stigmas associated with mental health and counseling, specifically within the Black community?
Yeah. So when we hear counseling, what are some of the thoughts that we first think of when someone says they're going to therapy?
Usually, if someone said, I think that most people look at it as like you're weak. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, you're a sucker. Why are you going to tell somebody your business? You know, that's usually what it is, and unfortunately, in our community.
Weak. What do you think of? Or generally, what do some people think of when you hear you're
Well,
going
I've
to
heard
therapy?
before that some people think that you're just seeking attention. You know, not really what you're actually going through, but just that, oh, you're trying to act like white folk, or, you know, just a lot of stupid stigmas.
Yeah. Now, on the flip side, if someone said, I've been having pain in my chest for the past couple of weeks, or I have a lump on my breast, I don't know where this came from, what would you think then?
You need to go see somebody.
You need to go see somebody.
Right.
Or I've been limping. I don't know what's wrong with my ankle. I've been limping for the past week. You're going to be like, you need to go to the doctor.
Right.
But for some reason, when it comes to our mental health, if you say, I've been just struggling, I've been feeling so depressed and down, I can't sleep,
Pray about it.
something's going
That's
on.
what people say. You need to pray.
Girl, you better pray.
Girl, you need to run to church.
You good? What's okay? Let's talk.
Let the Lord handle it.
Let the Lord handle it. We good. You good.
You don't tell everybody your business like this.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
You're strong.
Yeah.
And so within the Black community, it's been that stigma that we don't deal with our mental health. We just suppress it, keep it moving, put some holy oil on, and give it to God.
Right.
Let go, let God.
Let go, let
I
God.
know my family. My family be like, what happens in the family stays in the family.
Yeah.
And that's just generational rules
It's
that
called
you
a
just,
curse.
that you just go by.
Yeah.
Like, no.
And then what happens when we just suppress those experiences?
They come back 10 times harder because you try to just pray it away, walk away from it, ignore
Oh,
it.
yeah. Till
Yeah.
Till it explodes.
And so that's what my goal is with being a therapist and being a Black therapist, is to reduce that stigma of coming to counseling and knowing that you can believe in God and still have a therapist.
Right.
Just like you can believe in God and still have a primary care doctor.
Exactly.
It makes sense. Yeah.
God created therapists and doctors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your
Same deal.
mental health, your brain is another part of your body, just like your lungs, your heart, everything a part of your body. And so that's my goal, is to help people realize that it's okay to talk about experiences. It's okay to deal with grief and trauma and abuse you might have experienced in the past. You don't have to just say, okay, this is what happened, and just keep it moving. No, we need to talk about it. We need to deal with it.
Right. So, what are some of the common mental health disorders that some experience?
Yeah, well, some of the there are a lot of mental health conditions that one might experience, but some of the top ones I would start with is depression. That's a main mental health issue that a lot of people are dealing with now, especially with COVID and being isolated and not really having the same social circle. A lot of people are working from home now, so you don't get to get out and interact with people.
Right.
And so depression is something, and that's what you started off the show with Regina King's son, him completing suicide. That is something that can depression can lead to suicide if untreated.
Right.
It's feelings of hopelessness, difficulty sleeping, just severe levels of sadness, not eating, not sleeping. There are a lot of ways it can appear. And so that's something that we deal with within therapy. Another mental health disorder is anxiety.
Right.
When you guys hear anxiety, what do you think of?
You want to ask me?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Anxious, anxiety, but anxious, just kind of like want to peel your skin off. Gotta get out this room. I gotta go. I can't. That's when I think anxiety. Look, you just can't deal. Then we need to get you home. You know, that's how I feel anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I looked at you because I know you have situations. You know,
Oh, yeah.
truth. You know, we've all been full transparency where you've had mental illness. You know, off and on throughout your life. So, yeah, and I know you know exactly what she's touching on.
Yeah.
And you have a therapist. So yeah,
I do.
yeah.
So anxiety will keep you up at night. It will cause you to overthink. It
Yeah.
would cause you to ruin relationships. It will cause you to have physical signs. It heightens your blood pressure. You can take a pain pill for something, and because of your anxiety, it's like you never even took it. It has so many effects, and I went through that. And actually, from time to time, I still go through it. So yeah,
And it's so common. And we all have anxiety at some point.
Right.
But a diagnosable illness of anxiety is when it impacts your day-to-day life to where you are unable to function. I have anxiety, let's say, when I drive across bridges.
okay.
So I can do 5-lane when it's like I can drive in the middle lane, but if it's a 2-lane bridge,
Chain of Rocks Bridge.
oh my gosh.
Right around 270.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like literally my hands start sweating, my heart races.
I go the street route.
I try to. I do everything to avoid that.
Right.
And so that's a form of anxiety. And so I have to like prepare myself before I'm about to cross that bridge to like, okay, you're okay.
Yeah.
I turn on some music. I start thinking positive thoughts. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just a bridge. You've done it 50 times before. You're okay. You're safe. That's a form of anxiety. However, if that is spilling into my day-to-day activities to where I'm constantly, my mind is racing, I'm irritable. A lot of times they can come across as irritability, but really you're worried about something else and you're anticipating something that hasn't even happened yet.
Right.
And so if it's getting to that level, then that's when you want to seek and get help.
Okay.
Yeah, any questions on that?
None so far. I just want to remind our. You want to say something?
No,
Okay.
no, I have a pill for that.
Just want to remind our listeners once again that she can be reached. Ashley Reese can be reached at 314-325-1995, Haven of Support Counseling, or go to havenofsupportcounseling.com. She also accepts insurance, by the way, so keep that in mind. I want to let the listeners know that I know in your day-to-day hustle and bustle, you're always up and going. A lot of times you can't actually watch our podcast. So if you have a chance, these topics are very important, so please, you can listen while you work out, on your drive to work, or you're cooking. And you can check us out on Google, Apple, Anchor, Spotify, Spreaker, anywhere podcasts can be heard. Check us out. So now back to the show. We want to go with the next question of, what do you think has a major impact on a person's mental health, the positive and the negative?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so I think there are various things that can impact our mental health, and it's based on that individual. And so on the negative side, certain just life events can impact our mental health, such as a traumatic event, such as witnessing violence, a car accident, losing a loved one, going through a breakup or a divorce, losing a job, being diagnosed with a physical health condition. Those are all things that can impact your mental health. Right. It doesn't necessarily have to. It's someone who can get in a car accident or go through a divorce, and they can be shooken up for that moment, but then they can bounce back and they're like, I'm okay. And then there's another person who could go through a divorce and it completely causes them to go down a spiral of depression.
Right.
And so it's individualized to that person. And so, yeah, with those negative impacts, the positive things that can help your mental health is just practicing mindfulness, being able to pause and say, you know what, I have too much on my plate right now. I'm going to take a step back and make for sure I'm getting enough sleep at night. With sleep, that's one major thing that we don't realize impacts our mental health, but it's one of the biggest contributing factors to it. And so, if you're only sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night, that can lead to you feeling anxious. That can lead to depression, along with leading to physical health conditions. Eating healthy, that can impact your mental health. If you're eating a lot of fried foods and unhealthy foods, that can cause you to feel sluggish, and then that can impact a lot of other areas of your life. Exercise, these are things that you can do that we don't realize impacts our mental health, but it does. It's been scientifically proven just having at least 20 minutes of physical movement a day can decrease signs of anxiety. Being mindful of who you surround yourself with. That can impact your mental health.
Certainly the truth.
Yeah, if you're around people who are just sucking the energy and life out of you,
That's true.
that will cause your mental health to be impacted. Just as if you're around people who are pouring into you and you guys can uplift each other, that can positively impact your mental health. And so those are certain areas that we do have control in.
I had wanted to add when you were talking, also a sign of depression, sleeping too much, eating too much. If that's not really, all of a sudden, why the appetite is picked up. I wish I had the kind of depression that made it where I didn't eat.
Yeah.
But mine is like eat a loaf of bread with a jar of jelly twice every 2 hours. Like, just like eat everything.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, to keep me distracted, eating out of boredom, So, yeah, that can also be a sign of depression.
Definitely. You go on either side. I'm the type, I overeat too when I'm feeling.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then other people, they just don't have an appetite and they can go days without eating.
Lose 80 pounds.
that's
I'm
me.
still like,
Yeah.
So, quick question: who do they have certain kind of doctors or therapists for therapists? 'Cause I'm pretty sure hearing different people's problems and well as their things that of course you're trained. This is your job.
Yeah.
But what happened when you're bogged down? What happened when you
Yeah.
feel?
do you all have to debrief, like maybe cops and EMT? Do you all have to go somewhere and get that off of you?
Definitely. I have a therapist
Okay.
that I see. I need to schedule my appointment, matter of fact.
Right.
But there isn't a specific therapist for therapists. Our career is just like a person who's a doctor. They don't have certain people they see. But yeah, it's important, I think, for a therapist to maintain their sanity, because I still have experiences. I have life. I have family issues, relationship issues. I deal with grief just like everyone else. And so I need to go talk to someone and process that. And so, yeah, I see a therapist regularly. Proud of it.
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
A damn good thing.
How you go?
Another question I have, just off the mark, is how long is there a set? Well, how long does it usually take for a person to have a breakthrough? Is there? I mean, I know it's different things for different people. I know, because there's not a one size fit all type of therapy or therapist. But on an average, how many sessions or how much of, like, in the length of time, on an average, does a person really have breakthrough to where things start to sink in and they can start to make significant
Progress.
changes and progress in their lives?
Yeah. That's a good question. And I think you kind of already answered it. It depends on that person. It's no set amount of sessions that one person will. I can't guarantee you, if you've met with me after 4 times, that you'll be completely healed over whatever your experience is. Just as I stated before, that one person might go through a divorce and be deeply impacted, and another person might go through a divorce and it's they're unfazed.
Right.
And so it depends on that person.
Right.
But a lot of times people don't want to go to therapy because they think it's a lifelong thing. Well, once I start, I don't want to go see this lady every 2 to 3 weeks. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can go to therapy until maybe 6 months. It can be a few years. It's until you have come to a space where you've been able to deal and heal from your trauma and whatever difficulties you've had, and you have learned how to create a different narrative of your story. And that's one of the main goals with counseling is we all have experiences, but it's what story are you telling yourself?
What's your narrative?
What's your narrative?
Yourself.
To yourself.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so if your narrative is that you were the victim or you were the cause of something that happened to you, then we need to continue coming in so you can know that when you experience that abuse, that wasn't your fault. And that when something happens that triggers you, you can learn how to better respond to that situation. And so it depends on that individual. It depends on the
I was probably 30, 33, 34 when I first started therapy, right? And I needed to go to therapy. It wasn't until I was 36 and driving on the highway one morning that I had that breakthrough. And, I'm driving, I'm like, man, I was such a cute baby. Oh, I was such a cute kid. I would have loved that baby. 'Cause I'm a very nurturing mother, so I'm that way with my boys. And that was my breakthrough. So I have to care more for me. Oh, I can still do that. But then I'm married to a man that's like, fix it. And he is. I mean, we work well together because of that. But my husband is like, what does it take to fix it? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Broke your arm, get a cast. Need to pay a bill? Come on, let's pay this bill. Not just put something on it. He's a fix it. And it's like, babe, therapy don't work like that.
It doesn't.
I wish it did, though.
It would be so simple.
I wish it did.
I wish, I swear I wish it did.
I can say that I owe her an apology right now because throughout the years of our marriage, I am a cut and dry, fix it kind of person. My father's the same way because in life, my father always taught us if there's a question, there's always an answer. And it's somewhere out there. It's out there. You got to find it, figure it out, or create the answer. And that's just how my mentality works.
Yeah.
But I never met, or I might have met women in my past who had mental illness, and in my mind, oh, that bitch is crazy. And I blew it off like that. That's just a crazy.
She got daddy issues.
She got daddy issues.
Oh, Lord.
Right. And that was my whole mentality, being a young man, very disrespectful. Just every woman in my mind was just something to play with. Until I got older and realized you don't play with someone's head. That's why the tires get slashed. That's why the windows get busted. That's why they play on your phone, pop up at your job. That's why they try to poison you and throw knives. And,
While your door
I can go on and on. Not her.
While your door
my
get
exes,
kicked in and while
my exes
more cerebral.
my exes
I
and
didn't
some
do
of
none of that.
my exes and some of my children's mothers.
Okay.
But
None of that.
and that was the fuck boy in me. I'm running around doing what I do, but I digress. So when meeting my wife, and in my mind, this is what you're going through. That was your past. Get over it. Fix it.
Yeah.
And that's not how that goes.
It don't.
And I'm embarrassed to say that was me. I was pushing and pressing. And I'm surprised she didn't snap and do anything to me.
I gravitated towards you because you were like my mom. Not even my dad, but like my mom and my brother. Because in our family, it was whatever it is, get over it, fix it, get on with it. And I needed somebody like him to say, this is what we need to do. Come on. And I would. You put it on paper, I got you.
Yeah.
And I would do it, but that's why I gravitated towards him. But I showed him the softer side and, the nurturing side and how important that is, that support. So, yeah, I ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere.
And it would be so easy if everything was to fix it. When you break your ankle, you can have an x-ray, you can see exactly where the fracture is.
Oh, yeah.
And then after a month or two, you can go back and see if it's healed.
Right.
Yeah.
For mental health,
You can't see it.
you can't see it. We can't just pinpoint, okay, this experience when your mother smacked you is what caused you to. It's not that simple. It's a whole plethora of things that can cause you to be where you are.
Right.
And a lot of times, like within movies and TV shows, we expect to have this like breakthrough moment where you're on the couch and you have this epiphany and
Yeah.
like, oh, I get it now. I need to love myself. And
Well, that was a start.
yeah, it's a start.
That was just a
But
start.
it takes a lot more than
yeah.
that. And so I think just consistently going and then doing the work outside of the office, because you're only in the office for 45 minutes to an hour. And so it's what you do after you leave is what pushes you towards true healing.
Yeah. And it's just like with antibodies. I'm starting to feel great. I don't need therapy no more.
I'm good. Okay.
I'm great. Okay, it's over. See y'all.
I'm going to stop my antibiotics because
It got to the point I was coming back to group therapy every other year. And it's like, oh, you're making such progress. Like, no, really, I'm not. Something else happened. What happened? And then, go through the process again. You know what to do. But it's like with antibiotics. Once you start feeling good, you're like, I'm good. I don't need to do that no more. But I had several questions I wanted to ask as well, outside of what my husband asked. First of all, my first question, what is the role of an LPC? You're LPC.
Yeah.
And there's several other type of therapists, but
yeah,
what is yours?
LPC stands for Licensed Professional Counselor. And so I provide mental health therapy to children and adults.
Oh, bless you.
Yes, I love working with children also. So if your child is displaying difficulties at school, if
When you say child, age range.
from about age 5 and up.
Okay. Up
Five
into
and
the
up.
teens.
Yeah, up into teens, and then
Okay, young
I see
adults.
adults. And so, yeah, if your child is displaying difficulties at school, or if they are,
You just go hum about it.
Well, I had to have the school get a counselor for my son
tell
when
me
he
about
was in
that.
elementary.
Yeah.
So we went through it, and it really, because she didn't just talk to him. She came at the family. And I dealt with a lot of things that, that I didn't realize that I had put them through. And not only that, I had to be upfront with them about my illness.
right.
And it was kind of traumatic for them, but it let them know that, hey, mom's not lying to them anymore. I'm not, putting them in a precarious situation. They know exactly what's going on, and they know what to do. Previous to that, they didn't know what was going on. They thought I was going to die. They had no idea. And they were traumatized and scared, and I never knew it. They were just
Yeah.
acting out. Yeah, so.
And that's the important thing that, once you realize that it was impacting them, you took the step to have that conversation with them, and you took the step of getting them help.
Right.
And a lot of times with children, when they're acting out, they don't know how to verbalize that I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm having anxiety, so this is why I'm clowning and flipping the desk over because I'm worried about what's going on at home. Or mom and dad are going through a divorce, and now I'm scared of where I'm going to live. Do they love me still?
Yeah.
And so now I'm punching Billy in the back of the head.
Right.
Yeah, that lack of stability will have them acting out. And
Yeah.
you'd be surprised what they know and don't know
Exactly. And
about
so
what's going on.
that's why it's up to the parents to set that model of showing them it's okay to talk about feelings, creating that environment that
Oh, yeah.
we check in with each other. How was your day at school? How are you feeling for real right now? Versus, I'm good. I had a good day at school. Well, I noticed that you've been in your room a lot more. Or I noticed that your grades are slipping.
Yeah.
What's going on? And they might not open up to you. And so that's why it's important to, and it doesn't mean they have to go to therapy forever, but it's a lot of times where parents bring their kids in and they just spill their guts to me on their couch because I'm a non-judgmental outside person that they feel safe with.
Right.
And especially, I'm a black woman, kind of young, a little hip. So I'm like, okay, she cool.
Right.
She get it. I can talk to her. And it's, I call it a safe space. And so I would encourage every listener, if you have children, just as you take them in to see their pediatrician to make sure they're okay, let them go talk to a therapist.
Now, that segues into my next question.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, my next question is, should parents agree to medicating their children and teens? Or just maybe counseling? That was my big hang up. Like, my son may have needed counseling, but to try to push him with the medications, I wasn't for it.
Yeah, that's a real touchy subject, and so that's what you asked me. What is it, LPC?
Uh-huh.
And so I'm a licensed professional counselor, and so I cannot prescribe medication. And so if a child or adult does need medication, they would have to see their a psychiatrist or their primary care physician can prescribe certain mental
Only
health.
certain ones.
Yeah, only certain ones though.
Yeah.
And so I think with the medicine, I think it's a touchy subject. I'm not against medicine, but I'm not a proponent like just to medicate if they're showing issues, put them on medicine. I think,
Yeah, I don't believe in that.
yeah, I think I like to start off with therapy 1st and see if that helps. And then if there is progression, and if the symptoms have decreased, then you might not need medicine.
Yeah.
But sometimes if a person, for children or adults, this is for adults too, if your symptoms are severe and it's really impacting your life, if it's impacting their studies at school, and this has been going on for months, then they might need a low dosage
Of something.
of something to help stabilize their behaviors. Just like, and I like to use example for high blood pressure. A person can have high blood pressure, and all they need to do is exercise and change their eating habits, and they're good after a month or two.
Right.
And another person can do all of that, and their blood pressure is still high.
Lisinopril, amlodipine, hydrochlorothiazide,
You finna name it all.
spironolactone. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you have to take the medicine. And so it depends on that individual, but I'm not against it, and I would rather the child not have to suffer through years of getting in trouble, years of their grades slipping because the parents have their own reluctancies for medication.
Right.
So it just depends.
Yeah. Okay. How about we spoke about this with my husband a second ago. What would you recommend as the role for a spouse or parent of someone who's got mental health issues? Like, what role should you play in that? You know, they're going to therapy, they're taking their meds. As a spouse, what can I do to help them better themselves? Like, I want to continue to see this progress.
Yeah. Well, it's important to realize that it's not our responsibility to fix them. And so
Okay.
as the partner, you can't necessarily fix or change what they're going through. That's their personal responsibility. But what you can do is offer support and offer a listening ear and offer a judgment-free area where they can be vulnerable and come to you and talk about what's going on. And you can ask them specifically, what do you need?
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah, what do you need? Instead of you trying to figure out how to fix it, ask them, how can I support you?
Yeah.
How can I take the load off of you? And then they might just say, you know what, I really need my car cleaned out.
It might seem insignificant, but it might just be what they need in that moment to help
Yes.
them get past the hump.
Exactly. Every time I get in the car, it just intensifies my anxiety because
Yeah.
it's so messy. So if you could just go get it cleaned out,
Right.
and that would just really help me.
That's great.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
You-
How do you define helping or being that support system versus enabling?
Ooh.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. For enabling, I think if you're contributing to the toxic behaviors, so if you know that your loved one struggles with addiction and you know that they come to you every week asking for money and you know that they're using that money on drugs or alcohol, then you're enabling
Okay.
their addiction. And so you have to set that boundary and say, you know what, if you need help, I can put gas in your car or I can buy you some food, but I'm no longer willing to send you Cash App money or give you cash anymore.
So in that respect, with you doing that, which are things that they would typically do for themselves, are you still enabling them by freeing up that money they would normally spend themselves?
And I think it, like I said, I think it depends on that certain situation.
Gotcha.
I think you have to use discernment.
Yeah.
I think you have to see where they are. I think sometimes just having that conversation with them and saying, you know what, I'm having concerns about what I'm seeing with you. I know you and I know how you've been, and you're not that person that I know, and it seems like you're struggling. And so having that conversation and then just using your own discernment to say, like, you know what, I really don't feel comfortable. Something's off, and I don't feel comfortable still giving them this money. How can I support them in other ways?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
What does therapy look like, and when should a person begin to go seek counseling?
Yeah, well, therapy looks like kind of similar to what we're doing now, just talking. When you come to counseling, you're basically, I like to say, this is your show. This is your time to just talk about you without being interrupted, without me talking about my experiences. Like when you're with your friend and you're saying what's going on, they're going to be like, oh, girl, but let me tell you about what my husband did.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. And so counseling is an hour of where you can come in and you have a safe space where you can talk about just life, your experiences. We don't have a set agenda of what we have to discuss. It's what you come in and you feel like you need to talk about what's going on at work, what's going on at home. Now, that might lead to other areas that your therapist might touch on. But everything is confidential. So if you come in and you tell me something, I would never go and discuss it on a radio show or with my friends. The only time I would share anything is if you tell me you have plans of wanting to hurt yourself.
Then you have to report it.
Then I would have to report it. Or plans of hurting someone else, serious plans, then I would have to report it. And so it's a safe space where you can just let out all of those things that you've been holding in. And then we can learn together. We can focus on your triggers, learning how to cope, learning how to heal, learning how to listen to that inner voice, learning how to build your confidence and self-esteem. So there's a lot of things that we work on within therapy.
Real quick question. Is there a recommendation for, well, I know that, with psychiatrists, psychologists, and as well as counselors, and then you have people who are these, street counselors where they went through some stuff, they never got certified, but they're counselors. So is it very important that they seek someone with certifications and a paper trail saying that they know their stuff?
I think it is important to, with getting connected and getting help for your mental health, getting connected to someone who has been trained and who has the education and experience in that field, just like if you were going to see a medical provider.
Right.
Now, that does not mean that if you see someone who is a coach or someone who has a certification related to mental health, that they can't be beneficial to you.
Right.
And so I definitely don't want to discredit the other fields, but I do think for specific mental health, I think you should have someone that's licensed, and you can just check and see if you guys are compatible. I might have a client come in and they just don't feel like we're aligned, and they're like, you know what, I'm looking for something different. I don't take it offensively if you're like, you know what, you're a great person, but you're not what I need right now. And I can give you referrals to other therapists. You might want someone who shares the same type of background, same type of religion, and I might not have that. And so I think you have to find one that fits your needs.
Okay.
Now, I know someone right now, young person, who's worried about being confined. They don't want to go to the mental institution, but they feel like they're on the brink of that. So what advice would you give a young person? Like, just tell it or don't tell it. You know what I mean? Like, don't go in there and say you want to hurt yourself. They're going to lock you up. That's how the black folk think. So, but what would you give? What type of advice would you give to a young person that, don't really know where to go with this?
I would first ask, are they connected to a therapist and receiving counseling? Okay. And then, even though they don't want to, I guess, be hospitalized,
Yeah.
I don't think that's ideal for anyone. But on the flip side, it can be helpful.
Right.
And it might be what they need. And I'll go back to physical health. No one wants to go to the hospital and they have to admit you. But once you're admitted, they can better assess and see what's going on and you can get the proper treatment. And so it's a difference between just having thoughts of what I'm going through, I want it to end, this situation to end, or I want my life to end.
Yeah.
And so if you're at the point
Game
where
over.
you're saying, I don't want to live anymore, I have a plan, and I don't want to be here anymore, then for their safety, I would encourage them to be hospitalized. And it's not a permanent thing. It can be just for a few days. It could be for a week or two. But I think it's important to invest in yourself and say, you know what? It's worth it. I care about you and I want you to get the best help that's out there. And so if that means you need to take a week or two in the hospital and they can really give you the treatment that you need, I think you should do it. And so it's all about the story that they tell themselves about it. Like, okay, this is just me investing in myself.
Yeah, I guess it would be just whatever the narrative is, how that looks. Like she said earlier,
Yeah.
I told the children early on when I had my breakdown, so everybody on the same page. Everybody know, mom takes pills, mom's this, she's still handling. I didn't want it to be a secret for anybody. But even in saying that, I was gonna ask you, Lord, I think it slipped my mind. As far as the children are concerned, having to deal with parents, how much of that is hereditary? Like your mental health and your issues, how much is that hereditary?
It depends on the individual, but mental health issues can definitely be hereditary, and it can not only the mental health disorders, but just the coping mechanisms and how you saw your family deal with issues can be passed down. And so if you grew up in a family where when they think people were stressed out, they turned to alcohol or smoking weed, then you might mimic that same type of behavior. Or if you saw your mother when she's depressed, she goes into her bedroom and she's in there for weeks at a time, then you could likely repeat that same pattern. And so then on the flip side, some people can experience that and they're the complete opposite. Where I saw mom struggle with alcohol, so I don't even touch alcohol at all. And so it's based on that individual.
Yeah.
Question. When people talk about hereditary, especially with doctors, because I've dealt with so many of them, and, they always delve into, is this hereditary for you? And I'm like, from the understanding that I have of the word hereditary, that means the genes.
DNA.
But I think sometimes they misuse the word, because what it really is nurture. How you were nurtured, how you were raised, what you
versus nurture.
directly saw growing up, or what you directly experienced. Because I don't understand how something like, anxiety can be hereditary. That's more what you experience growing up. Some
your
people
environment.
say, yeah, because of what you experience in your environment, but it's not in your genes. It's not like, when this person is born 500 years from now, they're going to have anxiety because somebody in their past had anxiety. And I just, the word, because that word scared me from therapy for a long time.
It's basically nature versus nurture.
Nurture.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nature
Well,
versus
how do
you're-
you explain
you're-
then? How do you explain then if someone was adopted, they're adopted out, and then they have all of these mental health issues, only to find out when they do find their parents, like, oh my God, I have that too. Is it just coincidence?
Okay, so not saying for all of it.
Yeah, some of
it's
them-
just like, and I've used anxiety on purpose because I know that, with anxiety, that's one of those that, you can't say, well, my great 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 grandmother had anxiety, so that's why I got it.
Yeah.
So that's why I use that one. But mental health is so expansive, and there are so many things that are passed down through your genes.
yeah.
So that's why I didn't say all of
All
it.
of it.
It's just, picking out particular points that have more to do with
I don't
how you
believe
were
some of that-
nurtured.
Some of that I don't believe is hereditary. I believe it is the way you
Yeah,
were raised
just
in your
what you
environment.
saw, what you experienced, and then to
So
see
that's all
if
you
you're going to
know.
mimic or if you're going to go away from. Yeah.
Nature versus nurture. Yep.
My dad was an alcoholic. Mom was a drug. I stayed away from both things.
Yeah.
And that was my example. So I did stay away from
Right.
both things. But when I'm sitting in counseling, just by the numbers, you should be an alcoholic. I'm like, yeah, but I have no room in my life for that.
Right. Right.
So this is how I deal with it.
Right. Just like in
know.
my family.
Yeah.
We had drug addicts. We didn't have no alcoholics. So I didn't do drugs.
Because of that.
I got drunk. So
Crack is whack.
I'm just
Crack
saying,
is whack.
yeah, so that's totally
And
believable.
ironically, with that being said, that's a nice little segue. What should a person do about a friend or a relative that has begun to show signs of mental health issues?
Ooh, I think you kind of touched on that. And can I backtrack a little bit?
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Okay.
Molested it a little bit.
With the nature versus nurture,
Yeah.
your mental health, it can definitely be with genetics and hereditary. And so it doesn't have to be a definite thing that if your mom suffered from anxiety, you have it. But many times for certain mental health disorders, there can literally be a chemical imbalance to where if they do a brain scan, you can look at a person who doesn't have anxiety and then a person who does have anxiety, and you can compare the brain waves and you can see the difference. And then you can see that, okay, this is the same way my mother's brain was, my grandmother and her, my sisters and all of that.
Absolutely.
And so it can definitely be passed down, but then you have to look at the contributing factors of just the lifestyle. How did we handle, did they use drugs also? Was it abuse in the household? Was there anger issues? And so it's like, is it just genetics or is it the nurture environment? And I think they're two-folded.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to,
Especially when you talk about addiction.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a big one.
And then you have to say, like, did the addiction come because of what was going on? Or was the addiction already there first? Was it the chicken
Or
first?
the egg. Exactly. Yes.
So, yeah, it's kind of hard to kind of separate the two. But
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to connect to a professional, get help, and then just be mindful of the environment. If you have been predisposed, if you do have a history of it, that doesn't define you. That doesn't mean you have to repeat those patterns. You can get help and say, you know what, I'm going to be mindful not to be in certain environments. I'm going to get help. I'm not going to turn to alcohol when I'm frustrated because I know mom
could
and
lead into-
and auntie struggle with that.
Right.
So
Here in St. Louis, do they still do that 72-hour hold? Like, if he start acting crazy, I'd be like, oh, I'm putting you in for 72 hours.
Oh, I can speak on that.
Please do.
They most definitely do.
Thank you.
There was a situation that happened with my daughter at Lindenwood
wow.
last year this time, and there's a question that some counselors ask, and it's a slippery slope because of how they ask the question. So she was asked, in the past month, have you had anxiety or depressions or thoughts of maybe hurting yourself? So that's kind of broad. And she said yes. As soon as she did, instead of them listening to her, they stopped and they called 911.
Yeah. I learned that the hard way.
They didn't give her a chance to express what she meant by yes. It wasn't the last 14 days, because when they asked her the 14 days, she said no. They asked her the month, the 30 days. They immediately called 911. My daughter called me and she felt so violated. She was in tears. She was crying. And I kind of felt like, yeah, she trusted a counselor and they kind of violated her. And that I've been to counselors that this never happened. And I've expressed that same thing. That part never happened. So I'm on my way to the school and I'm talking to that counselor supervisor. And he's talking to me really disrespectfully because of my gender and because of my skin.
Yeah.
And I had to set him so straight. First of all, you're not speaking to someone who doesn't understand or that's not learned. I said, my daughter is not typical. She's very sensitive. Not only that, I'm not an enabler. She's busted her butt and got out there and did whatever she has to. She's dealt with her issues. She reached out for help because she needed it, and now she feels violated. And I said, you making your statements gives me total mistrust in you and the counselor that asked her that question. And I said, that's unfortunate because now it'll be harder for her to trust another counselor.
Right.
And thank God that didn't happen. She does trust them. So they sent her to the hospital right around the corner from the school in an ambulance, wouldn't let me take her. Said they didn't trust that I would take her. Why wouldn't I go get my baby some help? If she's having those feelings, I would definitely take her to get help. The hospital, we got to the hospital, they treated us so good. They talked to her first, then they let me in, and she did a televisit. From the televisit, they said that they recommend that she goes home. You know, because she explained on the televisit what she meant. I didn't coach her. I wasn't in the room. I don't even know what she told them.
Yeah.
But she was able to explain herself. So, you know, not trying to turn anyone off from counselors because to me that was the thing that saved my life. You know, but occasionally you will come across situations where you have to say, okay, that one's not for me. Let me go to the next one. Yeah. Like you said, if someone chooses not to come to you, you totally understand, you know, there's no issue. You know, find someone that can actually help you. But they did try to commit her for 72 hours. And the counselor that she talked to, the psychiatrist that she talked to said no.
That happened to me, similar.
Okay.
Real quick. And then I'm answering these questions, and that was one of them. And I was like, I'm going to be honest. You know, it's like the first couple of times I went to therapy. And this particular place, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. You know, the way they was asking these questions in my head, I'm like, wait a minute. It started clicking.
Good.
And when I answered that particular question, it was like, oh, okay, well, give me 1 second. Let me put this in my notes. So while they're typing in the notes, and she got off the phone with the doctor, and the doctor stated to her, we're going to go ahead and hospitalize her. Ask her, can someone come get her car? And I was like, yeah, just let me step out and make a phone call. And I got in my car and went home.
There you go.
Because I'm not about to tell my husband, oh, I'm finna be off work. I'm finna be laid up at a hospital. I'm crazy. Now, this is about, early 30s.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, no, we're not finna play that game. But it didn't happen like that. But, you know, later on,
you saw.
I saw counselors and then therapists. And, you know, the right way. But, that makes me nervous. I tell my
sometimes
kids.
Certain questions are misleading.
Don't answer that like that. And then you somewhere.
Well, that's true, but if they would just change the question and get more specific, that would have helped the situation.
Sorry she had to go through that. I think if that particular therapist had just gave her the opportunity to explain what she meant, and you can ask them like, okay, well, do you have any serious plans of wanting to hurt yourself right now? And they could say, no, not right now. Now, 2 weeks ago, I was really stressed out and I did. And then you can elaborate, okay, well, let's create a safety plan. If you do have those thoughts, who's a safe person you can contact, who you can talk to, and they can come over and sit with you, or you can go to their house. Here's a number for the suicide hotline. If you're having those thoughts, you can call this number 24 hours and they can talk to you and they can assess to see if they need to send someone out, paramedics to come pick you up. And then on the flip side, if a person is saying, you know what, I don't want to be here anymore. And when I go home, I don't know, I might. Then, okay, then they would need to be admitted.
Absolutely.
But if it's just, I'm having a really rough day or rough week, and I'm just frustrated, and I just don't want to be here, but I don't really have plans of wanting to harm myself, then no, you don't need to go to the hospital.
Yeah, the place I'm at now, they do the little questionnaire, and it's really multiple choice,
Detail. Yeah.
and you can write down, okay, I feel this way today. Yesterday I was great. Today, ... Is there a person you want us to call?
Yeah.
With this person, I will call them and speak to them, and they can help you through this.
And also,
I
when you
love
go
that.
to see your primary now, that's
Yeah.
part every 6
a
months they have to
depression
go
screening.
through this
When they
screening.
say, "Do you feel safe at home?" I'm like, yeah, I'm safe with my husband.
No, but
they
they
have
don't
to
know.
ask that.
They don't know what your situation
That's
is.
true.
You know,
But
And
I'm
it's a
glad
lot
it's
of-
on there.
that's a good way for them to find out if
Something's
you're
going
being
on.
abused or you might have they
Yeah.
never know. What
They
if you don't
never
have any
believe
running
this.
water or something? That
Yeah.
that's gonna be like, well, I don't even have a way of brush my teeth or wash my butt.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And that's why it's so important for within the Black community for us to have therapists that can understand and talk and not make assumptions and judgments based on, okay, like I might hear someone say, I gave my child a spanking. Someone else might hear that and be like, oh my gosh, I need to call the hotline. I would,
what do you mean by spanking?
yeah.
And where exactly did you perform this spanking?
Exactly.
And and how did the child feel?
And then I can use my judgment to see, okay, is this
Yeah.
child being abused? Are they in an unsafe environment? Or was this just a,
Generational curses.
yeah,
or was this you taking their hand
and pop.
and say,
Yeah,
Don't
but
touch the
'cause-
stove. That's
exactly.
dangerous. And so we have to have that spirit of discernment.
Absolutely.
And I think
Praise
you have to
God.
have
Praise
that
God.
passion for the people to have that discernment.
Yeah.
So, but I'm so sorry that your daughter had to go through that.
you.
But I'm happy she did not turn down
Passed
therapy.
it.
Yeah.
She found some holistic help.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it's been really good. She's
Good for her.
like, you wouldn't even know yet that had happened at that time, but yeah,
Yeah.
she's doing really great. She has days she has her low moments, like she called me the other evening and she was like, Mom, I owe St. Peter some money, and I'm like, so she's looking at me like she's expecting the worst, and I said, okay, what you owe? And she said, well, I owe such, and I said, all right, we'll get it. And kept going. I'm like,
figure
baby,
it
this
out.
your last 6 months. I don't care what
worry
happens. We can
Push
get you out of
through.
school.
Push
Right.
through.
See
All right.
St. Peter when you get there.
And the last question we have for this evening's podcast is, what is self-care and how should we practice it?
Self-care is caring for yourself. Simple as that. Self-care can appear in many formats. It can mean emotionally, physically, mentally taking care of yourself. I like to utilize are you guys familiar with the 5 love languages? When it comes to relationships, I like to utilize that for self-care and knowing what your love language is for yourself. And so
For the people out there who don't know, can you just give out the 5 different? You don't got to explain, but just
so the 5 love languages, it's love, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch. Oh, you put me on the spot.
Receiving gifts.
Oh, gifts. Come on, help me.
And what's
and
the
gifts,
fifth one?
acts of service, quality time.
Quality time.
Quality time.
I see wine.
So that would go under
Alcoholic.
gifts.
Alcoholic.
Alcohol.
And so just as we need certain things from our partners, we have to give that to ourselves.
Yeah.
And so that can mean we think, okay, I'm going to get my nails done or massage, or it can mean I'm going to take a walk. It might mean that I need to organize my closet. That might mean I need to schedule a therapy appointment, or I might need to go to Target and get me something that makes me feel good. Right. And so it can fall under a lot of different categories for self-care. And just knowing when to pause. It can mean I need to take a nap. My body is telling me that I'm tired. I need to rest. And so just being mindful and listening to yourself and saying, you know what do I need right now for today?
Yeah. Going knife throwing or axe throwing.
Axe
throwing. I want to do that.
Me too. Okay.
Yeah, it does seem
But,
like
yeah.
fun.
All right. So that is it for today's episode. We want to thank our man. It's
went
so
quick.
good to have you here.
Yeah.
We'd like to thank Ashley
It's
Reese
really
for
good.
coming
Have you
in.
back on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
It's still got like
So
a
we
gang of
definitely want
questions.
to thank you for coming in and speaking upon the things you know so much about, as well as to our listeners can finally educate themselves a little more about it, as well as I'm going to give out one more time for everyone to in the local St. Louis region to reach out to Ms. Reese at Haven of Support Counseling, 314-325-1995. The number again is area code 314-325-1995, or you can reach out on the interweb at havenofsupportcounseling.com. Thank you so much for
You are
coming
so
in.
welcome.
Appreciate that.
Thank
So,
you.
Do you do telehealth?
I do. I do virtual therapy and in-office therapy. My office is located in Hazelwood, right off of 270 in Lindbergh.
okay, excellent.
But if you can't come in, we can do virtual.
Okay, cool. Excellent for virtual. Excellent.
Yeah.
So once again, this was episode number 14 of the Audio Audacity podcast. And remember, you guys, if you want to check us out, we're on Facebook, Audio Audacity Podcast, YouTube, Audio Audacity Podcast, as well as I've started putting the podcast on the Old Freaks of the Industry podcast. So if you're already subscribed on there, stay on there and check us out. And you want to listen to us once again at Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, Spreaker, and anywhere podcasts can be heard. That's where you can find us at. And in parting, if you have the gall to do it, we have the audacity to talk about it. And that's our show for today. Catch you guys next week. Thank you.
Oh my God,
was
thank
great.
you so much.